We're now going to show you a short series of videos illustrating how to use a Clad Boy CB4 for short vertical and short horizontal panels. Now, when we refer to short, for horizontal panels, depending on core thickness and core material, this will apply to panel lengths between 5 and 8 meters. And when we're looking at vertical panels, again depending on core material and thickness, this will apply for panel lengths up to 10 meters. When the machine arrives on site, it will be packaged in a cradle, as shown here. Please pay particular attention to how the machine is packaged in the cradle, particularly if you have a forklift hook on your order. And when you finish with the machine, you need to make sure that everything's packed away exactly as it's delivered. And as you can see here, that will allow us to use a carrier to collect the machine on our fire, and we can bring it back through the carrier network without any risk of damage to the machine. So when the machine first arrives on site, you unwrap it, the first thing you need to do is connect the suction hoses. Chances are that the 4 vacuum outlets will be blanked off with plugs. To remove those, just push them up, squeeze the collar down and pull them off. Then you can connect the 4 suction pads just by pushing the hoses on and hearing a positive click and make sure they're located. Now, depending on your application, you may receive a machine with different varieties of suction pads. This one here has got 4 100 kilo pads attached to the machine. So the safe working load of this machine is the sum of those 4 pads. So that would be 400 kilos. You may well have different pads. You may have 1, 2, 5 kilo pads attached to the machine in either 2 or 4 combination. Or you may have even another form of pad, which could be a double suction pad. But the safe working load of the machine you're using will always be the sum total of the pads attached to the machine. Just to talk through some of the features of the machine, like all of our vacuum lifters, the Clad Boy CB4 is battery operated. And if you open the cabinet, you can see the battery inside, you can see some vacuum pumps, a battery charger here, and various other components. This cabinet can stay locked, and when it's locked like that and the machine's upright, it is a fairly weather-tight container. The machine battery will have been charged before it left our warehouse, but once you start using it, and after your first session of use, you'll need to put the machine on charge. The charger cable's in a small box on the side. It needs to connect to a standard 110 volt supply, and when it is connected to a live supply, there's a little LED at the back of this box that will illuminate when it's connected. When the battery's flat, it will be red, and as it charges, it will go through amber and eventually to green. A depleted battery usually takes 6 to 8 hours to charge, and for that reason we recommend you charge them overnight. Don't worry, you can't overcharge the batteries, so you can leave it on charge from Friday night till Monday morning. But please get into the routine of charging it overnight to make sure the machine is available for use the following day. On the same side of the machine, you've got the main power on-off switch. You push it for on and pull it for off in this case. You've got a water trap, so you can lift wet panels with a Clad Boy. You can operate in wet conditions, but please use common sense. Wipe excess water away from where the suction pads are going to locate and keep your eye on this water trap. In wet conditions, water will gradually accumulate in this container here. At the end of a working session, when you switch the machine off and vent the vacuum, you can drain it by unscrewing this black plastic screw, let the water drain out, and then reinsert that and tighten it finger tight. But please be careful, because that is a plastic thread in a metal and a brass housing, so it's very easy to cross-thread it. And if you do cross-thread it, you will leak suction through that point, so be careful with that. On the front of the machine, you've got the vacuum gauge, which we'll talk about later. You've got a red warning indicator, that's linked to an audible siren. You've got the green light, which will indicate a safe lifting status. You've got on the front of the machine a pivot locking lever, which we'll talk about in due course. And on this side of the machine, you've got a voltmeter that will indicate the state of the battery. And when the machine's switched on, that will register. Now, a Clad Boy CB4 is a 12 volt machine, so this needle will never go up the full scale of this meter. It will always indicate around 12 to 13 volts, and that indicates a fully charged battery. We'll show you that when we switch the machine on. And finally, on this side of the machine, you've got the main vacuum operating lever. And when we come to operate vacuum, we rotate this lever into the green position, and to release suction, you pull this pin out and rotate the lever back into the red zone. So that's the main features of the Clad Boy. Just to come back while we've got the machine in the cradle, talk about the suction pads. The pads have got removable seals, and every machine supplied to site will have a spare set of seals with it. It is possible to change those seals. The seals are just pressed into a groove, a compression groove around the edge of the pads, so they can be changed. And there are instructions in the instruction manual, and there's also a short video we can send to you to show you how to do that, or you can call us for assistance. But if you look after those pads and make sure that the machine is left in this cradle when not in use, and make sure the pads are not left on the panel surface for long periods of time, those seals will prove quite durable and should last you for the duration of your project. And just to repeat what's inside these boxes, you've got the machine instruction manual. In there you'll find a copy of the machine Lola certificate. Towards the back of this manual, I believe it is, and there you are. You'll also find instructions about wind speed limits and suggestions for daily checklists. And in the other box you'll find some secondary safety straps we'll talk about, and you'll also find some spare seals. So that's the machine. We're now going to connect this to our overhead crane and pull it out of the cradle. So we'll stop this video and restart it in a few minutes. Well, just before we lift it out, the machine is actually locked into the cradle with this locking pin. So there's an R clip at the back. You pull it out and you can pull this pin out, and that frees up the machine so you can lift it out of the cradle. I'm just going to stop this video now.